Hey, Marianne, remember the other day when we were talking about Taco Thursdays? What was your favorite place to go for tacos?
I would say Jack's Place or Pioneer.
I always liked Lloyd's. I would get 2 tacos and a beer.
Boy, 2 tacos in old style. That sure could hit the spot right about now.
I don't think I could have made it through Prohibition.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, times are different for us women nowadays.
Yeah, we can actually go in a bar.
And have a drink.
Yeah, and have a drink. That sounds like a good topic for one of our podcasts.
So let's talk about it over a beer.
Okay, let's do
All
that.
right, see ya.
Buckle up. It's time for Kewanee Memory Lane, where we cruise down the 4 lanes of Kewanee history with a detour of fun uncovering the past, coming to you straight from the Kewanee Historical Society in the heart of downtown Kewanee. Here are your hosts, Marianne and Leanne.
Hi, I'm Marianne.
And I'm Leanne. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Kewanee Memory Lane. How have you been since we last met?
I'm doing pretty good.
Oh,
just
good,
ready for
yeah.
spring, over the snow, but overall, pretty good.
Yeah.
How about you?
Just so you know, we had that drink, and we did discuss Prohibition.
Yes, we did. That old style. Woof. It was good.
I did not have old style.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's still snowy out. Yeah. Still cleaning up from that storm we had.
Yeah.
So, for our show and tell today, what do you have?
I brought some Walworth stuff. I don't know if you can see them, but they're little badges. So you had to have clearance to go on the property or be brought into the gate. So
And
if you were in
what was Walworth?
well, before that it was Western Tube.
Okay.
And they made valves and things for ships. Mm-hmm. They also helped in a war effort, but a lot of like almost plumbing stuff on a huge scale.
Okay, yeah.
But you know, if I don't know this guy's name, I'll just call him Jim Smith. If you were Jim Smith, you had to wear that to get in.
With your own picture on it.
With your picture, you had clearance. Or you might have a badge that says visitor number 7 if you were visitor number 7. You know, remember Walworth was so huge.
Right.
It was like a city in itself.
Right,
they had
right.
4,000 people, I think, employed at one time. Or if you were contractor number 2.
Awesome.
So that's how I guess they had a man or woman at the gate and they kept track and, you know, and
Yeah.
they didn't have cameras on you back
Yeah,
then, so
right.
God knows.
They sort of had
And
to...
also you would carry this little coin with you and it says Kewanee Works. This has number 2825. So whoever was employee number 2825, it's just pretty cool. So it would have a little chain of some sort. I know my dad had one. He'd have it in his pocket. My grandpa worked there. So they all had one of these.
So did they take all those things? I mean, probably not the visitor one and the contractor one, but did they take those home last night, or is this how they checked in and out of?
I think they probably would have taken it home with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It does have his number on here. He looks familiar, but I don't know who he is.
Right.
But the Walworth was around for, I forget how many years.
A long time.
A long time, and a lot of families, a lot of generations, a lot of immigrants. My family was an immigrant family on my dad's side. I'm only second generation born here, and I know so many people, and even on my husband's side, that worked at the Walworth. So so I picked these today. What do you have?
I have perhaps my favorite thing in the museum. I don't know why. I just have always loved this.
I think it's interesting.
This carved wooden box says SS Kewanee launched June 7th, 1919. Sponsor Miss Clara Doshi. Presented by Bethlehem Shipbuilding Corporation Limited, Moore Plant, Elizabeth, New Jersey.
Oh, wow.
And so in it is...
a beautiful box.
Isn't that pretty? In it is this like fluff of ribbons, but also attached to the fluff of ribbons is the actual champagne bottle that I don't know if you can see it, the actual champagne bottle that Clara Doshi used to christen the SS Kewanee. And right on the heels of the Walworth, she worked at Walworth, and Walworth and Boiler made many parts for the SS Kewanee, and then it was named after the city of Kewanee. And she got to go there with her mama June 7th, 1914. Is that 14? I
think
so.
that's a night.
19? I don't know.
I don't know. I think it's the 1919.
Oh, it was 1919. I just said it and I didn't know. Anyway,
Do you know how she got picked?
I don't know. I know she worked in Walworth, and I think she worked in like the infirmary department.
Ooh.
Because when she got done, when she came back after New York, or what she was working toward was to be a nurse. And so she ended up being a nurse at Walworth for her career.
Okay.
But I think she was pretty.
I just love that picture.
I do
She
too.
looks pretty and carefree, like she had a good time.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I don't, just for a young lady.
And her mom looks even more excited.
Yeah, and just to be able to have that trip funded for you, and you went and
Right.
did this
So
cool
her
thing,
mom and a whole contingent
got out of Kewanee for a minute.
yeah, to New York City, to launch the ship. And so I think that is one of the most fascinating things here at the museum.
And the picture of the mural is located on one of our buildings in the downtown area.
And the YMCA has the mural of the SS Kewanee on it.
Huge.
And we have lots of information on it if anybody wants to check it out.
So we just kind of weird how we picked out both kind of
that
Walworthy
is-
type stuff. I didn't plan that. I just grabbed them. So
yeah, that's cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's neat.
Yeah. So, and this is on the first floor. That's on the second floor. So we have 3 floors of information here at the museum on all sorts of things. So when we're open, give us a holler and come check it out.
We'd love to give people a tour or just talk about it or help them find whatever they're looking for.
Right. And if you need to get a hold of us, we do have a Facebook page called KewaneeMemoryLane, and we have an email called KewaneeMemoryLane@gmail.com. So you can drop us a line, and if you have questions or anything, and
If you want to say you're doing a great job, or
Yeah.
or you have a question, or you
you
need
can send
anything.
tacos.
Oh yes, yes. Tacos are good.
Tacos are my favorite food.
Yeah.
Anyway, so today we're going to talk a little bit about Prohibition and what happened in Kewanee.
Wow. And last time when we met, talking about the brick, and it just kind of fit in with that. It was a
Right.
good segue.
Yeah, it
just
is.
to kind of, it's just, man.
Everything in Kewanee was tied up together, and
Yeah.
and a lot of players played in all the fields, and
The cast of characters is what I like to
yes,
call them.
right, the cast of characters, the major players.
Yes. Names
but-
crop up in different places.
Right,
Yeah.
right. We do like to do deep dives into our topics, and there are many names, and I would like you to remember some of the names when we go through, just because they pop up all the time. And these people, I mean, this was their life that we're talking about,
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
sure that they were just doing what they could do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like
This-
I've said before, no judgment here.
Yeah.
We're talking 100+ years, or about 100,
Yeah, 100 years ago. Yeah.
So it's, I know my grandpa was making wine somewhere in the house, in a big
right,
crock. And
right. Exactly.
I'm not judging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some of the people, at least in my story, might have relatives still around the area. So
Oh, for sure.
yeah,
For sure.
yeah. So
This is just for us to learn a little bit.
yeah,
Not to,
and Prohibition fascinates me, and how the interactions of everybody and the public versus the police and stuff like that.
So I have a question for you before you get started. Do you think that the mules or the bootleggers or whatever you want to call them, do you think they kind of looked out for each other or had a network?
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they had a network.
Oh yeah. And the bootlegging, I'm gonna talk about bootlegging as part of this, but the bootlegging was in people's homes,
Oh yeah,
And-
for sure.
also in all the buildings downtown. Basically, there was a still somewhere, and whether you could hide it from the police. Apparently, mash smells, and what is
I don't even know
mash?
what's in mash. I need to Google that.
corn.
Oh,
It's
corn.
fermenting corn.
Ooh, that would have a distinct odor.
Yes.
Yeah.
It smelled like fermenting corn.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they wouldn't vent it properly. Apparently, this is how you do it. You vent it out the top of your house so that it would just fly up there.
So the police would have to guess which house is it. They
Yeah,
really don't know because
or
it's
it
in the
wouldn't
air.
necessarily be smelled because it was way high up.
Okay.
A lot of people didn't do that, and
Are
therefore,
you going to try that sometime?
who's to say I haven't? Anyway,
Okay.
so Prohibition, national Prohibition started in 1920.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Kewanee's Prohibition passed in 1914.
So you're telling me Kewanee went dry 6 years earlier.
Before everybody else.
How did that happen and why?
I don't know. There were just some people that were
Well, I'm sure
against it.
liquor probably had an,
Yes, and it
an
still
effect on
does.
some people, yeah.
So around us, everybody was wet. There were a couple bigger towns that did go dry also, but around us, they were wet towns versus Kewanee was a dry town.
I've heard a lot of rumors over the years about tunnels underground, especially in the downtown area around the bars, and
Yeah.
I'm sure they're caved in now if they did exist, but I really think that somebody dug something so they could move it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. We'll never know.
No, and I didn't run across any dug holes or anything.
Yeah.
But hiding it was a thing.
Okay.
So
okay, I can't wait to hear more.
So in 1914, Prohibition passed
Okay.
by 98 votes in Kewanee. So
It
yeah,
was pretty close.
yeah. On May 1st, 1914, at 10 p.m., taverns closed for good. Dun dun dun.
Wow.
And as they closed, the dry crowd, the people that didn't want bars, stood outside and heckled the people coming out of the bars.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's just rude. And
So this was really like kind of a judgy thing.
yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Only the lower classes drank in the bars. I mean, no, you made your own at home. No, I don't know.
Wow.
So they were heckling tavern goers as they exited from Whiskey Row. And Whiskey Row was 3rd Street from Main to Chestnut and the first 2 blocks of Chestnut. And that was specific. That is where the only places that the city gave liquor licenses.
Really?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I know my parents would mention Whiskey Row, and I kind of knew where it was, but I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
At this time period.
Okay.
Okay. Before Prohibition, basically, it was Whiskey Row was you could only buy drinks from a bar on those 2 streets.
Well, I'm just thinking about now, like where Coco's is, that's an empty parking, or it's a parking lot. So there was probably a place there and so on.
That was the Alcazar.
Oh, okay.
That was,
okay.
and they had part of the Alcazar was food. It was the Alcazar Grill, and you entered that off of 3rd, and off of Tremont you entered the bar or the tap room.
Okay.
Off of 3rd, so
Okay.
it was called the Alcazar.
Oh,
But-
interesting.
But and the owner of that was named Steve Pletkovich, and Pletkovich is a name.
I know that name.
Yeah, and he's a player in Prohibition. So interesting stuff.
When I was in high school, we had a dean of girls. Her name was Stella Plukovich, and I'm sure there's some relation.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So one of the major players, whether he liked it or not, was a man named Gint Hippert, and I know we discussed him when we discussed the brick, because he was called Mickey Tink, which we don't know why.
We don't know why. Just that's what I was told by
Yes,
someone.
right,
and,
right.
That wasn't his legit name.
No,
So
no.
I guess
Well,
it was
neither
his
was
alias.
Gint,
No, but it was his alias. Yeah.
So it started as around 1860. John Hippert and his wife Mary came to Kewanee.
Okay.
And John opens his cobbler business, and he made shoes to order, and his shop. We have a stereogram. We'll probably put it up for you to see. At the corner of 2nd and Chestnut, where the hotel, Parkside Apartments now stands. There was a little house, and he was the cobbler there.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So
that's right.
That guy, John, he had 15 kids. Yeah.
Holy
But
smokes.
they didn't all come here with him.
Okay.
I think they were from Pennsylvania or something. And so
Okay.
some of them were grown.
Okay.
And
I wonder what drew him to Kewanee.
I don't know.
Who knows?
That is,
I ask
that
questions
is a
sometimes
good
we just don't
question.
know the
Doesn't
answer to.
pertain to my story.
I know. Sorry. Okay, moving on.
So at the time of John's death in 1898, 6 children were living. And most notable for our purposes are Philip and William. They both stayed in Kewanee.
Okay.
So Philip married Mary Elizabeth Malone. Now that is an Irish name. Mm-hmm. She went by Elizabeth. And then they started naming their kids, and they named them all the same names. So their first son was named Philip Eugene,
Okay.
after his father, but he was called Gene or Eugene. John Franklin, and he was nicknamed Gint, and he was born in 1889. That's who we're going to discuss.
1889.
1889.
Wow.
So, and then there was 2 girls, Mary Elizabeth, named after the mother. She was called Mamie, Rhoda, and John Jacob. Not to be confused with John Franklin. John Jacob was called Johnny. And Johnny and Gint, I guess they were like the best brothers because they're always working together and stuff like that. By 1915, so about 26 years old, Gint was in Rock Island.
Ooh.
And Rock Island was still wet.
Okay.
So, and he was a bartender.
Because this was a year into Prohibition here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So, and the first article I could find about Gint was in 1917, he was a bartender at a saloon owned by Louis Ortel. Important name. Gint was stabbed in the back after breaking up a scuffle.
Oh, literally stabbed in the back.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Next to the left shoulder blade, penetrating the lung, wound 6 inches long, went to the hospital. My gosh, 26 years old.
Oh my.
He may or may not have been married. Not a lot of discussion. There's a Mrs. Hippert comes into play every now and then. I don't even know if it's the same woman. His brother went through women, like 4 of them. So.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So in 1920, we find Gint Hippert in an article with John P. Brady. Does that name ring a bell?
It does. He started Brady's Saloon, I believe, which
John,
is now Cerno.
Yes, John Brady.
Okay.
He was with Gint Hippert, who was an expert announcer. And they say he was an expert. Gint Hippert was a large man. They called him leather-lunged sometimes. I think he liked to yell.
Leather-lunged. I've
Yeah.
never heard that term before.
And during the Depression, they said he stood on this corner here and
Really?
sold bananas to make extra money,
Okay.
saying they were grown fresh from West Park. West Park is a park down the road.
He probably bought some from the local produce.
Yes,
Yeah. Well, that's hilarious.
So I just thought, but he was an expert announcer, and they were the head booster delegation to neighboring towns publicizing the Kewanee Fair.
Oh, wow.
So that was when the Kewanee Fair was going on.
And you remember where the Kewanee Fair was held.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was out at Terminal Park. No, I'm sorry. No, it was at high school, wasn't it?
Kewanee High School.
That's where the fairgrounds were.
Part of the fairground track is where the football field is.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. So, and then also in 1927, Steve Pletkovich, I told you, remember that name, he was injured in a car he was driving from Peoria, and he hit a telephone pole.
Ooh.
He was okay. Well, I'm
Glad
sure he
he-
wasn't. He was in the hospital.
But he ended up making it.
He was fine. In the car was Gint Hippert, John Ranella, and John Babcock. I couldn't find John Babcock, but John Ranella ended up. Was that from the brick? Did he?
Well, Sam Ranella owns
Sam
the
Ranella.
building, and so I don't know the connection
yeah, I
between
don't know
John
the
and Sam. I'm sure
but,
they're related.
John Ranella owned what became the distributing. Like it became Boswell's. And,
Yeah,
over
yeah.
there. Next to Cerno's or Brady's.
Where
know,
now
so,
they've kind of fixed it up, that side dining room.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
yes.
pretty
so,
cool.
So that was also apartments. That was the Ranella Apartments, and then there was Ranella.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Oh.
Bottling and I don't know.
Distributors.
Yeah, distributing.
Because
and stuff
now
like
I think everything comes out of Galesburg, G&M. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had talked to Mike DeWald, our president, looking for a picture of the south side of 2nd Street before 1940.
Okay.
There isn't really one.
Oh, man.
So, way that comes into play is there was a building at 213 West 2nd.
Okay.
I think it's going to be right off the alley over here.
Yeah.
And it was on the bottom floor was a tea company, and upstairs was apartments, and the Hippards owned the apartments.
Oh, kind of like where the Cablevision was. Like,
Correct.
which is a Breedlove.
Yes, Breedlove's
Yeah,
owns
yeah.
it right
Okay.
now. And so he, that was the first time that we see him get arrested for having a gallon of whiskey, but it doesn't say he made it. It just says it was there.
Okay.
And he was fined $200 in costs. $200 then, in 1921, $3,500.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And apparently...
For a first offense.
Well, we don't know.
As far as, yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So,
We
but,
still don't know what happened in Rock Island.
yeah, they're yeah, that's
another
coming up.
story.
So, but there was a sheriff named Sheriff Nash of Henry County.
I heard that name.
Yeah, and he was a stickler for Prohibition,
Oh.
and so he was not liked.
Okay.
And
So he was always looking for stuff doings. He was
Yes,
always looking for
yes.
goings on.
yes, and he didn't feel that the Kewanee police took it seriously enough.
Oh. Okay.
Perhaps
so
there
could
may
his
have been.
authority oversee? You know.
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because the
Okay.
sheriff would be over the towns.
Okay.
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 Oh my gosh, I haven't even started. So, okay. So he was arrested and fined. So then he goes to Butte, Montana. But he's also still working for Louis Ortel. Okay? So we gotta
Okay.
So he quits working for Louis Ortel and goes to Butte, Montana, and traveled a circuit announcing boxing matches. And he was with Sullivan. He was a big promoter. I did not
I would love
look
to
that
find
up.
a picture of Gint as a boxing announcer. That would be cool.
With a megaphone or something. Yeah,
Yeah,
wouldn't
that
that
would
be
be
fun?
cool.
I haven't seen it. But the big
You have a lot of stuff there.
I know, and I just lost my number one. Number one, Gint Hippard to jail. Bond to be $25,000.
Oh my.
Gint Hippard, during 8 palmy years bartending for Louis Ortel, was in the Rock County Jail. He was presented with a copy of the indictment, which charges him with conspiracy to murder Dan Drost. Dan Drost is a lieutenant for a man named John Patrick Looney, who is no relation to the Looneys in Kewanee, just so you know.
Just so you know.
And he was an Irish mobster in Rock Island, and he did some bad things.
So he probably had his area.
Yes.
Okay.
And he was murder, women, booze, drugs. So
Wow.
all the bad things over there.
Wow.
And he also ran a newspaper where he got extortion money from higher ups.
It's kind of handy to own your own newspaper.
Yeah,
and you
you
can
know.
publish what you want. So, yeah.
Like a picture at B&B Printing says, freedom of the press belongs to those who own one.
Oh, wow.
Freedom of the press belongs to those who own one.
Yeah.
So, so he was conspiracy to commit murder, has $25,000 bond, and he says he went out west when Ortel's place was closed up before the indictment crop was harvested. So apparently there was a lot of indictment crops, indictment things for the goings on for this, which it's a fascinating story. It doesn't pertain to Gint Hippard, so I did not prepare anything for it, but it is an interesting story. You should
Now,
look
where
at
did
John
you find
Looney.
some of this information?
All of this information I found out through the libraries,
Okay.
newspapers.
Okay.
The library has all of the Kewanee Star Couriers, and I did some work on Ancestry, and through the books downstairs, the directories, the city directories.
Oh, yeah. Me too.
And
Me
we
too.
also have some binders about Prohibition that had a lot of things in it. But so then he was put in jail, and that it was noted, came from a Rock Island paper, The Hibbert may make further sensational disclosures of the inside workings of the loony government, of which his employer, Louis Ortel, was an important factor, an unofficial statement by persons. And then he says, I'd like to see myself get into this kind of mix-up again.
So am I hearing you right that Hibbert was not in cahoots with Looney?
Hibbert worked for Looney.
Okay, that's right.
That's all that was said.
Okay. Because I kind of don't know if I'd want to go against this John Patrick Henry, Looney, sorry.
Yeah.
John Patrick Looney, that's no relation.
But then, he was also a person.
Yeah,
And he also took care of his family.
Yeah.
It
was a different time.
It was a different time.
It was a different
Right. I'm not saying that he did good things. I'm sure he did good things.
Right.
But not where this is concerned.
Right.
So, yeah, after that, he went to Butte, Montana, and then it was reduced to $5,000 the next day. And the $5,000 was put up in land by his mother, Steve Plekovich, and Henry Ort. I can't find Henry Ort.
Okay. I know there's still some Orts.
Yeah, there's
around,
lots of Orts, but I
yeah.
don't know if he lived out of town. I just couldn't find him.
Sure.
So, but his mother and Steve Plekovich, who owned the Alcazar. So, it was reduced to that. And then, the next time we see him is in 1925, he was in a car with Ira Addis. And Ira Addis, I'm going to say, he was the dad in this situation. He was about the same age as Gint, but there's another Addis who was his son. Okay. So Ira Addis was driving a Ford coupe with two 5-gallon cans of alcohol in the back. And this was in July of 1925. He was arrested and taken, and he was arrested in Rock Island. Gint, or J.T. Hibbert, they got that wrong, otherwise known as Gint, and said to be a former henchman of Looney's, was with Addis, but was not held when the latter claimed ownership of the alcohol. Hibbert retained attorney B.T. O'Neill to defend Addis. This morning, however, attorney O'Neill told Magistrate Metcalf that attorney J.A. Hanley had been retained as associate counsel in the case on orders of John Looney of Rock Island. I just want. Why would John Looney put up a lawyer for these two guys who don't know John Looney? I don't know.
Well, there's got to be a connection.
There has to
be. Maybe he was a nice guy.
Oh, he could have been. It could have been. Yeah. He knew Gint from, because he used to roll newspapers for him, is what an article Gint said. He remembered rolling newspapers for Looney.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, because he had his own news. Yeah. Okay.
Addis had nothing to say in answer, but attorney Hanley made a statement in which he claimed Addis was a restaurant cook at Kewanee and was doing a favor for a friend. He was just doing a favor for a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was just taking donations for the band. He wasn't selling
kind of like a version of GoFundMe.
Yeah. The Ford was seized. Addis was fined $300 in cost, and he was unable to pay the fine at once, but his attorney said arrangements were being made to pay the fine this afternoon.
I wonder who came up with that.
Yeah, I don't know.
That quickly.
Yeah, I don't know, and I don't know who paid the fine.
Yeah.
The next little tidbit is interesting to you. In 1927, we find Gint Hibbert, the owner of the Goldenrod on Railroad Avenue.
Really? Okay, and I think that's where Edna Butler ended up after she and Major Roman parted ways out of the brick.
Every single article that I found about Gint Hibbert owning the Goldenrod said formerly owned by Edna Butler, who was a right-hand person to Major Roman. Before that, it was owned by Irma de Klerk, and it was called Irma's Place.
And I forget the guy's name that was involved, too, and he was supposed to be Major Roman's lieutenant. I cannot remember.
Oh, I don't remember.
Yeah, so it's just, they have these terms, so.
Yeah, interesting. So they've raided the Goldenrod and found 3/4 of a pint of whiskey.
That's it?
3/4 of a pint.
That's it?
Police say the building is said to be peculiarly that word constructed so that the hiding place of the booze has been inaccessible to the police and has long been a puzzle to them. I really wish that building was.
Did
so
they have to have search warrants back then? Probably not. I don't know.
I don't know. I
That's
doubt
a legal
it.
question. Back in the 20s, did they have to have
Go looking for booze?
It
I
is
don't
during
know.
Prohibition. Does that just give them the right to go in if they suspect you? I mean, now
I
you
don't
have to have just
know.
cause, and you better have a warrant in your hand.
Right. I don't know.
Huh.
That's
I'll have
Well,
to
we
Google
need to look
that.
that up.
Google.
in July 27, federal agents sting operation on Old Whiskey Row. So, Old Whiskey Row. There was a whole bunch of casualties on Old Whiskey Row. Pete Van Heck, who worked with Alois de Kaiser at what is now Cerno's. So he was Vic Van Hull. He had Vic's place. Joe Matson on North Elm. That was the Joe the Immune, because
Joe the Immune?
because he paid off a lot of people, but they got him.
Oh.
And
You know, I recognize a lot of these names because we have a set of whiskey bottles or booze bottles down in our bar collection downstairs here in the museum. And a lot of these names are on them. So I think, you know, perhaps some of these privately bottled, and I don't know how they had it molded to put their name, whatever. But it's just kind of neat.
Yeah. And then, so Ira Addis was also arrested, and Alois Van Nieuwenhuis was arrested. Was arrested. But here's where it got interesting. Arthur Curly Van Neville, former Kewanee soft drink vendor, now of Rock Island, went to the bond of Gint Hippert, the portly proprietor of the Goldenrod. Formerly operated by Edna Butler, Major Roman's understudy, and prior to that, operated by Irma de Klerk. I don't know, every time the Goldenrod is mentioned, that is what it says. Mrs. Prudence Heaney was found in the name on her bond was Mrs. Alois de Kaiser, and Peter Van Heck is bonded out Alois de Kaiser. So yeah, all these people are connected.
Kind of wanting to help each other out.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
So after that, in November, Ira Addis, Gint Hippert, Vic Van Hull all get fined $300 and 3 months in jail.
Wow.
That was like the going thing. So in 1927, after that, Gint puts out a thing that says he is going to quit the racket. Things are too tight around here. It's raid, raid, raid. First the city dicks come along, and then the county hits you. Then the federal guys take a rap, and then the city and county come back for another visit. He was just done.
He had enough.
Yeah, and he only owned the Goldenrod for like 6 months. And guess who bought it?
Who?
Ira Addis.
Really? You know, I have to think that, you know, Gint might have still been involved in some way.
Oh,
You know,
I don't
but that was actually a newspaper article that he was quoted.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
The city dicks.
Oh wow.
Those darn people.
Isn't that crazy?
So after this, Gint lays low. In 1929, the only mentions of him are of him using a megaphone to announce sporting events because his brother, Johnny, was a boxing promoter. Because there was a lot of boxers in Kewanee, and there was a whole circuit in Galesburg, Monmouth, the cities.
You know, and Gint spent a lot of time at the Brick.
Oh,
from
yeah,
what I've been
right,
told,
right.
But they called him another name. But
and
maybe
there was
that's
supposedly
where-
boxing there.
So
you know,
maybe there's that connection.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
I wish the information hadn't been, but yeah, and there ends Prohibition, but that doesn't end our story. So I think we're gonna have to go to a second part.
Yeah, I think it's all very interesting and probably a part 2 to this.
Yeah, I think so. So I think on the next one we will be finishing up our story about Gint and also talking about the odd things that happened during Prohibition with bootlegging.
Ooh.
So I think everybody's gonna have to stay tuned.
Like putting
for
whiskey in boots and
that. Yeah. Yes. And singing all night in jail.
Oh,
yeah. The Whoopee Girls.
The Whoopee Girls. Yeah.
So, yeah, I want to thank you for coming along on this partial adventure with us. So, yeah.
And I hope that you come back to hear part 2.
Yeah. See you at the museum.
See ya. Thank you.
Thanks for cruising with us today. We hope you enjoyed the show and you'll join us for our next cruise down Kewanee Memory Lane.